The spotter's hand finds your shoulder before you feel ready for it. 3,000 feet under your boots, smoke is doing something your fire behavior briefing didn't fully cover. Your hands are already on the doorframe. You are not thinking about the mountain, or the crew below, or the 5 weeks it took to get here. You are thinking about one thing, the next few seconds, and whether your body will do what you trained it to do when the hand on your shoulder becomes a slap instead of a rest. 5 weeks earlier, none of this is guaranteed yet. It starts on a pull-up bar, 7 clean reps, no swinging, no half reps that don't count. Then 45 sit-ups, 25 push-ups, a mile and a half you need to finish in under 11 minutes, with 5-minute breaks between each event, which sounds generous until you realize the breaks exist because the next event assumes you're still recovering from the last one. This is only the entrance fee. The real test comes next. A pack loaded to 110 pounds, strapped onto a body that just finished the pull-up bar. 3 miles, 90 minutes, flat ground, and even the people who designed the test call this the minimum. In the field, the same pack can mean 10 miles or more over rock and down timber, with the nearest road nowhere close. You carry the 110 pounds now because later, when it isn't a test, nobody is going to ask if you're ready. Around you, candidates wash out. Nobody announces it. A name is just missing from the manifest the next morning, and training continues without pausing to acknowledge it. 5 weeks, if you make it that far, and the numbers on that first bar are the only reason anyone even considers letting you near a fire. Courage was never the qualifying test. Your body was. The call doesn't wait for you to feel ready either. A fire is spotted, a manifest is posted, and somewhere between the alarm and the runway, you stop being someone in training and become someone suiting up. The jumpsuit goes on first, built from Kevlar heavy enough to survive a landing in a tree without opening you up on the way down. Underneath it, fire-resistant Nomex, and under that, whatever you were already wearing. The helmet comes next, with a wire mesh cage over your face. Not for the fire, but for the branches you might meet on the way to the ground. The reserve chute clips against your chest, the main rig against your back, and by the time it's all on, you're carrying close to 100 pounds of gear that you checked, and someone else checked again. There isn't a long walk to the aircraft. There's barely time to notice the weight before the engines are already turning over, and the runway is already behind you. In the air, the fire is a shape before it's a place. The spotter is at the open door ahead of you, reading wind and terrain the way you'd read a page, where the smoke is pushing, where the canopy breaks open enough to land in, where it doesn't. Nobody jumps until that reading is finished. Not because anyone here is short on courage, because the ground itself decides who lands safely and who doesn't, and only one person on this aircraft has the training to read it fast enough to matter. You watch instead of act, which is its own kind of hard. The aircraft, a twin-engine turboprop built for exactly this kind of doorway, banks along the smoke line while the spotter works. When the jump spot is finally called, it isn't a guess. It's a decision made by someone who has done this enough times that a moment's hesitation now could cost more than a bad landing. Then it's your turn, and this is the moment the whole morning was pointing toward. Get ready! The words aren't loud, but they cut through everything else in the cabin. You grip the door frame with both hands, feet at the edge, 3,000 feet of open air under your boots that a second ago felt like a floor. A static line runs from your parachute pack to a cable bolted along the ceiling above you. The only thing, for the next several seconds, still tying you to the aircraft at all. The spotter's hand lands on your shoulder. Not a push, a signal. And then you're out, and the aircraft is already gone from your world. The static line does its job before you fully register falling. It pulls a drogue chute free, and the drogue stabilizes your body in the air long enough for the main canopy, a square, steerable chute, to open above you. For a few seconds, it is only wind, altitude, and the sound of fabric taking your weight. People who have done this for decades still describe this exact moment as the hardest part of the job. One of the last living survivors of the deadliest fire this profession ever fought once said that nothing that came after ever matched the difficulty of stepping out that door the first time. You believe him
because you are living proof the door doesn't get easier just because you've finally gone through it.
The ground arrives faster than the fall felt. You land the way you were trained to, hips first, rolling with the impact instead of fighting it, letting the parachute collapse around you instead of dragging you sideways into a tree line you didn't choose. Not every landing is that clean. Canopy country means branches, and branches mean a jumper can end up hanging above the ground instead of on it. For exactly this, 150 feet of rope rides in a leg pocket of every jumpsuit. A letdown line. They're because getting stuck in a tree is common enough to plan for, not rare enough to improvise. Your gear bag comes down separately, food and water and hand tools and a fire shelter packed into it. And once it's in your hands, the job that actually brought you here begins. There is no truck idling nearby. In terrain like this, the nearest road can be miles away, sometimes further than you'll want to think about until the fire is finally out. It's you, your crew, and hand tools against a fire that already has a head start. You trust the people jumping beside you the way you trust the rope in your leg pocket, completely, and because you've all drilled for exactly this. One jumper who does this work put it simply: everybody on the crew already knows exactly what to do. And that, he said, is the whole beauty of the unit. It has to be. One 20-year veteran of this job once dislocated his shoulder mid-jump, a wait of a couple of miles for a helicopter that couldn't land any closer, a reminder that the job keeps finding new ways to hurt even the most experienced jumper on the crew. You cut Fireline by hand, a break in the fuel wide enough that the fire runs out of anything to burn when it reaches you. It is slow, repetitive, unglamorous work, hours of it, and it is also most of what this job actually is. The jump lasted seconds. This part lasts as long as the fire does. Every move on that line follows a set of rules that predate you by decades. 10 of them, plain enough to memorize, built specifically so a fire can't outthink a crew that follows them. Know what the fire is doing. Keep escape routes open. Post lookouts. Stay in communication. They read like common sense until you learn why they exist. In August of 1949, 15 smoke jumpers jumped a small fire in a Montana canyon called Mann Gulch. Within about 2 hours, the fire stopped behaving like a small fire. It turned into what firefighters call a blow-up, an explosion of flame that investigators later estimated reached close to 2,000 degrees, tearing uphill faster than most people can run on flat ground. 13 men died that afternoon. 12 of them were smoke jumpers. Only 3 survived, and one of them later said that nothing in the years afterward, no fire, no jump, nothing, was ever as hard as that first step out of a plane door had been for him, long before Mann Gulch ever happened. You were not there. That fire burned decades before you were born, on a hillside you've never walked. But the rules you're following right now exist because a task force studied that fire, and 15 others like it, and turned what they learned into the 10 orders drilled into you before you were ever allowed near a fire line. The rulebook isn't caution for its own sake. It's the documented cost of the version of this job where nobody wrote the rules down in time. You keep working the line, and the 10 orders keep running quietly under everything you do, not because someone is watching to make sure you follow them, but because you understand, now, exactly what happens when they aren't there to follow. The fire goes from something alive to something smoking to something dead, and somewhere in that slow change, the job shifts again, from fighting the fire to leaving it behind. Nobody flies you out. You pack out everything you carried in, sometimes more, and you walk. A full pack-out load can run past 100 pounds, and the distance back to a road can be a quarter mile on a good day or 15 miles on one that isn't. Your hands are raw. Your face is streaked black. Your clothes are stiff with dried sweat by the time you reach whatever's waiting for you at the end of the trail. There's no ceremony at the trailhead. Someone checks your gear back in, and the manifest that had your name on it that morning goes quiet again, until the next one. This part of the job doesn't make it into most descriptions of what a smoke jumper does. The jump is the image people carry. The pack out is the part that actually empties you out, mile after mile of a trail nobody documents, carrying the weight of a job that, on paper, already ended when the fire went out. Back at base, the gear you jumped goes back into a bag, re-rigged, ready.
You're on standby again by the time you've showered off the smoke. Nobody talks about the door the way people who haven't been through it imagine they would. No bravado, no retelling. Just the quiet understanding that the fear from this morning didn't go anywhere. It's still there, waiting in the next doorway, on the next call, whenever it comes. That's the part the job never advertises. Not that the fear goes away, that you go back anyway.
That door only ever opens one way, forward, into whatever's waiting on the other side of it. Somewhere right now, someone else is stepping through a very different one. If you enjoyed living this one from the inside, consider subscribing to Occupation Files, and let us know in the comments which life we should step into next.